All right, well, let's stick with this with the Lakers then. This is why I always say it's okay to be tepidly, cautiously optimistic that maybe the Lakers are okay, because every time they win a couple of games, they start getting chesty, and J.J. Redick says something like, we play like this, we can beat anybody, and then they go and lose to Philadelphia without Paul George and Joel Embiid and Dr. J and Bobby Jones and everybody. They say they just need a center. AD says, we had a center. Oh, that's what it was like. We'll win it all. If I'm Rob Pelinka, Rick, I give them a center. I say never ask for anything again. I can get you. If you want JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard again, I can get you those guys, but don't ask for anything else. If you guys need this to win a title, I'll get this for you. Now go win.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. You can go get a center. You can pull Dwight Howard out of retirement. I mean, you can go get a big body and play it at center. They just I'm blanking on the name. They signed a guy to a two-way and gave him some minutes. This is what I don't understand about the essence of saying we need a center. Other than AD doesn't want to have to be center, but even that doesn't really make sense, because he also he says he's gunning for Defensive Player of the Year. Having to play center for the Lakers and getting the sympathy vote as the center is probably his best avenue to that. If they get a legitimate shot blocking center, then he's not going to have the same stats that he's had as the backbone of that defense. And I do think that he should be considered for Defensive Player of the Year. But here's my biggest question about getting a center, and presumably you're getting a center not just to make the team picture look better, but presumably so that he plays, and then Anthony Davis moves to the 4, and then where does LeBron James play? You're moving him to small forward. He has played predominantly power forward, and at times he has been the biggest player on the. He's been essentially at the 5 by default for the Lakers, and that has worked, particularly defensively. But it's not going to work if he has to play small forwards. He can't stay in front of small forwards. He doesn't want to be chasing guys on the perimeter. And then what do you do with Rui Hachimura, who essentially has been put in that position and is ideally a power forward? This is what I don't understand. I understand, look, without Anthony Davis is really the only rim protection that they have. Jackson Hayes is a shot blocker, but offensively doesn't give you anything. He's not going to space the floor. Christian Wood is I don't know if we'll see him again. I get in one sense why they would want that. But talking about getting a center as if that's the linchpin to them winning, like you're going to play that center a lot of minutes, that's the part I don't get, because then it means that LeBron James has to play a position that he's at 40 years old simply not capable of playing. Like, yeah, he was a point forward, he was a small forward, he did all of that, and you could still do that offensively. But defensively now, you're asking him to guard threes? I just that doesn't make any sense to me. Even if he was willing to do it and put in the energy, athletically, he's not capable of doing that at this point.
And as far as the team's defense, Anthony Davis left due to injury, and then Philly scores almost 50 points in the second quarter of this game tonight. Now, LA is continuing the Eastern road trip with essentially the game in D.C. Thursday night. That's the equivalent of a free space on your game board.
Yes, sir.
And then the game will be at New York on Saturday night. So 2 questions.
Yeah.
Competitive without Davis at New York, and what about competitive to avoid play-in this year overall?
They have a chance just because the Western Conference is so wobbly. If it continues to be as wobbly as it's been, then I think they have a chance to avoid the play-in. But if Minnesota gets its act together, then I don't see Houston falling. I don't see Memphis falling. It gets real tight. They're competing for one of those 6 spots with Dallas, which has stayed in the mix without Luka.
With the Clippers, who just whipped the Lakers.
Yeah, exactly. And the Clippers are in that mix. I mean, I don't want to dismiss them having a shot, because to JJ Redick's point, like when they're playing their absolute best, yes, they can play with anybody, they can beat anybody. The problem is they can't do that consistently, and no one expects them to do it consistently. And so, I don't want to dismiss their chance of making the sixth seed, but that's what they're playing for. They're playing for the sixth seed, and they're going to need 2 or 3 teams that I would say are better than they are overall to continue to underperform or have injuries that is going to leave that door open. But look, they're in that mix now, and that's more than I would have expected. But I'm not going to dismiss it. But if they don't make it, I would not be the least surprised either.
NBA Insider Ric Bucher, our guest, Jason Smith, Steve DeSager here at Fox Sports Radio. All right, now before we get to De'Aaron Fox and Jimmy Butler, we talked about this beginning of the show. Yes, these guys are on the trading block, and maybe the Heat can make it swing a deal, and now maybe De'Aaron Fox wants to go to the Spurs. But I said earlier on, the 2 guys who should be on the trading block. I'm going to give you 2 guys who should be for different reasons.
Yes.
Joel Embiid.
Okay.
And Steph Curry.
Okay.
Joel Embiid, both sides need a fresh start.
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit, but go ahead.
Whoa!
Both sides need a fresh start in Philadelphia. I mean, you've seen the best of Embiid. For the next 2 postseasons, I think he'll magically be healthy when he gets to a new team, and clearly they need to start over. And if Steph wants to win, he's got to think about going someplace else because no one's coming to Golden State that's going to restart this dynasty, Rick. Who are they going to get? Who are they going to get? Who's coming to help them win games?
It's not. You're looking through the wrong end of the telescope there. And I with Joel Embiid, and this is actually good for you and I, that I agree with half of your premise.
Okay.
That is progress for us. Somebody write down the date and the time because this is a noteworthy.
He'll take it as a win.
Absolutely. I agree with you 1,000% with Joel Embiid. I believe that he needs to be someplace where he is a key contributor and not the guy that carries the load. Like, if you could make a deal and find a way to get him to Phoenix, for example, someplace that needs Sacramento, another place that needs size, and you have other talent there where you're not asking him to be everything. A little bit like his role on the Olympic team this past summer. Give him that, and then maybe you're able to keep him healthy. But also, you don't have to count on him 1,000%. He can give you a little bit. I'm with you on that because the process and that whole thing in Philadelphia, that's over. And Philadelphia is going to be stuck unless they move on from them. And based on the way his contract is structured, there's a lot of clauses and provisions in there about health and everything else. I think that's viable. Now, let's get to Steph Curry. One, why are you hating on Steph Curry not being able to live his life and be the guy in the Bay Area? He has entrenched himself in the community. His kids and his family have a life here that they love. He has a life here that he loves. I think there's a part of him, the old school part of him, that would love to begin and end his career in the same uniform. That has value for him. But the other part is Steph Curry can just look at Damian Lillard going to Milwaukee. That was supposed to be his opportunity to go chase the rings that he's never had, but certainly to upgrade his ability to chase a championship. Any place that Steph Curry would go where he would have a chance to win another title, he would be the number 2 guy. It wouldn't be his team anymore. And so I think he recognizes that it's not just all about championships. From my conversations with him, what he loves is the challenge of how can I maximize the potential of this team? Can I make us better than anybody expected us to be? And he doesn't rule out like somehow, playing for another title. Doing it in 21-22 was somewhat miraculous. But he's not from the school of if I'm not on a team, he's not in the LeBron James category of if I'm not playing for a title, then something's wrong, and either you have to my GM has to fix it, or I have to threaten to go someplace else. Steph is content here, and he knows what he has, and I just don't see in any way that he wants to give that up, and nor do I see the Golden State Warriors wanting to give that up. There's something about Steph Curry that goes above and beyond the player, and that is just the person and the culture and the aura that he has. And even though he's not playing for titles, I will tell you, when I go to Chase Center, I still enjoy watching him play and trying to do the best that he can with this team. And I would much rather see that continue than to see him someplace else where now he's trying to fit in to someone else's scheme and someone else's uniform and someone else's dynamic. I for one, I have no interest in seeing that, and I don't believe Steph Curry does either.
So he's done winning. Done winning.
Yeah.
Because we would say that about LeBron.
Hey,
most of the last few years.
He's done winning.
But Jason, here's the thing. Like, so is LeBron James.
Yeah, but we know that.
He's done winning.
We knew that.
Right?
He was done after 2020.
Does he
done.
know that?
Yeah. And you know what? And it happens. Like this idea that, like, I mean, Steph and the Warriors had a longer run, an unusually long run. Look at over the last 30 years, the teams. I mean, we can count on one hand the teams that have sustained excellence at the level of the Warriors. You've got the Lakers in the three-peat, right? You've got
that's a good
Spurs,
question, yeah.
The Spurs, and even Spurs didn't have, like
more
they
extended
never had back-to-back,
right?
But it was extended, right? But outside of that, I mean, Boston doesn't fit in that category. Not even the Miami Heat. They went to 4 finals. They won 2 championships. That's still not 5 finals and 4 championships for the Warriors. Or do I have that wrong? 6, maybe? 6 finals? I mean,
lost to Cleveland.
Yeah, they lost to Cleveland and they lost to Toronto.
Yeah.
In the finals, and they still ended up with 4 rings. 1 before KD, 2 with KD, and then the 21-22. So we have the numbers right. I mean, like, the idea that that's supposed to just continue on and on and on, the league is built so that doesn't happen. I mean, honestly, it's not. It's that the Warriors paid everybody who won them championships, and at some point you run out of money and you run out of assets and you run out of legs because of age and wear and tear, and that's where the Warriors are. And honestly, I mean, Steph is doing amazing for a guy 35, 36, but he's not the same guy either, and so I don't even know if you put him on another team where he had to be the number one guy. Like, what team is that? That's the part, Jason. What team? I gave you, we can talk about Joel Embiid and the teams that he could go to, and it would make sense, and it would be interesting. Like, give me a team where he would go, and you'd go, okay, these guys aren't championship contenders. They're kind of on the cusp, but if they had Steph Curry, and you got to give up something to get Steph, like, who is that team? I don't know who that team is.
Do I just default and say the Knicks? Do I just default?
No.
I just default and say Knicks. I'll just do that.
It's the automatic go-to. Oh, that's beautiful. That is.
I'll just default and say the Knicks.
I was thinking Portland till he said on the cusp. Oh, okay. No.
Portland.
Yeah, then nobody. No.
Yeah.
Last thing, I know we've only got a minute here, but we go from good guy, good attitude Curry to Jimmy Butler. Is he such a pariah? And maybe with the contract also that, I mean, how does he get moved here in the next week?
Yeah, well, honestly, I'm not convinced that he will, simply because Miami would be better served to let him walk as a free agent than to take on contracts that are going to mess up them being able to to build around Bam and Tyler Hero going forward a year from now, and that's really their focus. They're not going to take back bad contracts, and the problem is that Jimmy's worth, Jimmy's making close to $50 million, so you got to give up $50 million worth of contracts if you're a team of any note.
Ridiculous.
That means two good players. So I think it's going to be really difficult to move him. I think the way he's acting the way that he is, he knows his last shot at getting a payday. He knows that Miami is not going to – he's trying to force them to trade him. I'm going to be such a pain in the ass that you're going to take less in order to get me out of the building. But I really think that they'll just continue to suspend him and take the Ben Simmons approach if it comes to that rather than making a bad deal.